We are living in a continent that we have 1.2 billion people with a GDP of $2.7 trillion. We have the youngest population in the globe. This is a continent of great possibilities and opportunities. These opportunities and possibilities are hindered by bureaucracy, red tape, regulations, and many things that impede our collective progress. I told our teams earlier, we cannot share poverty, but we can share wealth. And we need to work together to create wealth. And we must eliminate the barriers, the hurdles. Our borders must not be walls. We must turn our borders from being hurdles to being bridges. We must turn our borders from being hurdles to being facilitative so that we can do trade, we can do business, we can make investment, and we can move people, goods, and services freely in our continent. Kenya and South Africa are struggling to export to Europe and all manner of places. And yet, there exists market and opportunity in Kenya and South Africa. 70% of trade, intra-European trade. Africa is at 19%. What a shame. And we still want to have a conversation about, oh, you know, we have this regulation, and you know, we have this other regulation, and you have to wait. I mean, surely, good people. Sometimes, even when we want to make decisions at the policy level, the business people are the ones holding us back. Or, you know, that guy is going to take over my market, and the other guy is going to take over my market. Please, let us have one big market. Forget about your small market. Let us work together. Instead of selling to a few people in Kenya or selling to a few people in South Africa, let us sell to the many people in Africa by tearing down the borders that limit our opportunity to work together. I want to thank President Ramaphosa and I have also agreed to develop a sustainable mechanism to identify, monitor, and resolve non-tariff barriers that limit the trade potential between our two countries. We can only reap the full benefits of the MOUs and agreements we have signed through the full and effective implementation of all the undertakings we have committed ourselves to. It is important that we continue to demonstrate the viability and usefulness of the JCC mechanism in improving the quality of our relations. We are concerned over the continuing threats to international peace and security, particularly conflicts in the Horn of Africa, the Great Lakes region, and the Sahel. These conflicts cause suffering, disorder, and lead to unsafe migration and weakening of states. Your Excellency, I want to thank you specifically for providing the necessary leadership that saw the resolution, at least at the technical level, and now that implementation will be carried out on the matters between Tigray and the government of Ethiopia. Kenya and South Africa commit to play our roles in the pursuit of sustainable peace and security in Africa and the world through the Africa Union Peace and Security Council and UN Security Council frameworks. At the continental level, we laud the just concluded agreement between Ethiopia government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, brokered by the Africa Union and mediated by President Olusegun Obasanjo and Uhuru Kenyatta and former Deputy President of South Africa, Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka. We appeal to all parties to ensure the full and comprehensive implementation of the agreement. Kenya and South Africa recognize climate change as a definitive challenge of our.
This visit has once again reaffirmed that our bilateral relations are based on a sound foundation of mutual respect, shared values, and friendship, and are also based on our democratic values. These principles will undoubtedly continue to serve us well into the future, especially in times of global uncertainty. We used our discussion, both our tete-a-tete and our official talks in the presence of our respective delegations, to take stock of the current state of our bilateral relations, while also exploring other areas of mutual interest and possible cooperation. And we recognize that the wonderful foundation that exists between our two countries gives rise to enormous opportunities that our two countries should capitalize on. We also witnessed the signing of agreements and memoranda of understanding, as you correctly said, and this builds on the other agreements that we had signed in the past. We are committed to ensure that the agreements and the memoranda of understanding that we have signed now and in the past will be implemented fully. You and I also took opportunity to discuss the thorny issue between our two countries of visas between South Africa and Kenya, with a view of allowing Kenyans to be able to visit South Africa on a free visa basis, that is without having visas. We agreed that indeed Kenyans should be able to visit South Africa without requiring them to have visas, and that this dispensation will commence on the 1st of January in 2023, and that our officials will speed up the processes of putting this into effect, and that this dispensation will be available to Kenyans for a 90-day period in a given year, meaning that, yes, can use the 90 days, 10 days, 20 days, or whatever. For the full year, Kenyans will have a full 90 days to be able to visit South Africa, and we will be able to review this and get reports from our ministers within a year and see how this is functioning. This will also be underpinned by other processes that we have agreed should take place, close monitoring of the implementation of this process, and also be able to have a return policy of those, as we call them, elements that would be undesirable, to be able to be returned to Kenya. And this, in many ways, just strengthens the relationship between South Africa and Kenya, but more importantly, the people-to-people contact, because as you and I observed, Kenyans and South Africans have multiplicities of relations, both business, social, communal, at relatives level. They want to be able to travel, and tourism also between our two countries will be greatly enhanced through this. South Africa and Kenya are confronted by a number of challenges, almost similar challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Since 2020, South Africa has been implementing what we crafted as the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan to lift our economy out of a prolonged period of slow growth, but a period that was also negatively impacted by COVID-19. This is not dissimilar to Kenya's recovery plan, with its 6 core pillars of agriculture, focusing on micro-enterprises, small and medium enterprises, housing and settlement, healthcare, and the digital superhighway and the creative economy, as well as the environment and climate change. There are definite opportunities for South Africa and Kenya to share experiences and good practice in the implementation of these various economic opportunities that are given rise to by the plans that we both have adopted.
Kenya and South Africa have had good relations since South Africa defeated apartheid in 1994. The ties between our two nations continue to grow in all aspects of development, and especially in trade. And the two countries have ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, emphasizing our shared commitment to the promotion of intra-Africa trade. Today, Your Excellency, you and I are delighted to have presided over the signing of 4 instruments of cooperation that will play a definitive role in the Kenya-South Africa relations. They are 3 memoranda of understanding and 1 agreement on cooperation in the fields of correctional services, cooperation in the fields of housing and human settlement, cooperation between Kenya School of Government and the National School of Governments from South Africa, and the agreement on audiovisual co-production. On behalf of the people of Kenya, I express Kenya's appreciation on the progress we have made in the long-awaited visa-free regime between Kenya and South Africa. From January 1, Your Excellency, we will have a different regime, thanks to your personal intervention on this matter and the wealth of experience that have been brought on board by your officials. Kenyans holding ordinary passports will be allowed to enter South Africa on a visa-free regime for up to 90 days per calendar year. The two countries have also agreed on a return policy when immigration laws and regulations are breached, to make sure that bad elements that try to infiltrate our borders are dealt with firmly and decisively.